Hey TCS TV viewers, it's Dave and Evelyn from the camera store, and today we're giving you our first impressions of the Fujifilm X-T5.
This is the Fujifilm X-T5, and this is the latest in the Fujifilm X-T series. It's a very popular lineup with its classic styling and the dials everywhere that we love so much. This camera has a 40.2 megapixel sensor and the same processor found in the X-H2.
But what does that mean for your photography? We're gonna get into it. So personally, I fell in love with this system when the X-T3 came out. I loved how the camera felt. I loved the dials. I loved the experience of being able to manually control the camera in kind of more of a traditional way. The experience of this camera is what it's all about. I love bringing this around. It makes you just feel kind of creative. And again, just brings that traditional idea of photography and just being more connected to it into your workflow. And this X-T5 holds true to that same design concept. They made a few refinements compared to the X-T4, but the dials just feel great. I like the weight and the balance of this camera. The grip is nice in my hand. I think the shutter button has a nice feel to it. It's not too spongy or anything. It's responsive. In terms of the electronic viewfinder, it's still a 3.69 million dot electronic viewfinder. It's okay. It would be nicer if we saw a high resolution EVF for this high resolution camera. We still have the joystick on the back of the camera to quickly move your autofocus points around manually. But I think really it comes down to just the overall experience of this, and I'm happy that they've stuck with that same X-T series design.
Part of what I really like about the X-T series is its jack-of-all-trades kind of approach to photography. It's a very flexible camera. With that high-resolution sensor at 40.2 megapixels, I can achieve a lot of details when it comes to landscapes and scenery, but it's also great for shooting sports and action. We can do 15 frames a second in mechanical and up to 20 frames a second in electronic, albeit with a small crop. When it comes to the autofocus performance of this camera, it's very similar to what I'm finding with the X-H2. And that's a good thing. These are great autofocusing Fujifilm cameras. We had a great opportunity to try the autofocus of this X-T5 at the Beeline Indoor Bike Park, which is a great place for BMXers to really light things up. We got a really good chance to check things out. Now, what I found with the autofocus at the indoor bike park there is that it's able to acquire the rider's face and track the subject very efficiently, even though they're whipping by us really quick at times. It's nice, and I felt very confident in using this autofocus system. Now, I like to shoot a lot of vertical shots as well, and the one thing they didn't release at the time of the announcement of this camera is a battery grip, and they said they have no plans of releasing a battery grip for this camera. Now, battery life is very good out of this camera at about 700 shots, and that's not the issue. For me, I want to be able to shoot with the secondary autofocus button and shutter button in the vertical position. Without that grip, I'm always having to reach my hand over. It's not the end of the world, but on a long shoot, you're certainly going to feel it in the back of your hand. They do offer a metal accessory grip, but it doesn't have an auxiliary button on it, and it's basically there to give it a nice tripod plate. It's Arca Swiss compatible. It's a nice addition, but it doesn't give the ability to shoot vertically. Now, with the addition of the 7-stop image stabilization, we also have the ability to do multi-shot, where we stitch multiple shots together, which gives us 160 megapixel file size. What I'm finding is that this camera is geared a little more towards the still side of things and less about video, but Drew and Evelyn are going to talk about that next.
Thank you.
We have Drew from behind the camera. I think we're gonna make this a regular thing, just like pull him out. Yeah. Makes our jobs a little bit easier. But we're gonna talk a little bit about video on the X-T5. We talked about earlier that the X-T5 is definitely a more photo-centric camera, but it does have some video features on it. So I'm curious to get your input. First of all, what's your thoughts on the formats that this camera offers?
Well, it's definitely pared down. So after the excellent X-H2S and admittedly the still very capable X-H2, it is a little bit disappointing to see the video functionality pared down a little bit. So we don't have 8K recording, we're topping out at 6K 30. We do still have 4K 60, but we don't have super sampled 4K 60, only 4K 30 is super sampled and it does have a crop to it. That being said, for someone like you, who does predominantly photo with a little bit of video, it still is very capable.
Yeah.
4K 60 does, of course, look very good. 1080p at 240 frames per second for that super slow motion and everything like that.
Yeah.
You know, you have microphone jack, headphone jack off of the USB-C and everything. So it's not like you're missing anything. It's not like, you know, going to be lacking in any sort of...
You can do it. It has the in-body image stabilization And yeah, you could make some nice looking videos. Of course, it's not that fast scanning sensor like the stack sensor in the X-H2S. So you got to watch for rolling shutter, things like that.
They really did spoil me with the X-H2S.
They
They
did. See,
did.
that camera is more designed for you. It's like the hybrid camera, where this camera is more for me, where I'm just more interested in the photo side.
Absolutely.
So give it back.
Okay.
All right, Ev, so this is an update to a very popular camera that you're very fond of in the first place. After playing with the X-T5 now, what are your thoughts on it? What do you think about it?
I still love the X-T series, and we talked about this before we were shooting today, that from the X-T3 to the X-T4, I didn't feel like upgrading because I wanted to see a little bit more of a resolution increase. Now we have it with the X-T5, and I have to say I still love the experience. I love having the film simulations. I know it seems like a silly thing, but it adds to the overall experience, and Fujifilm just does such a good job with those film simulations. It makes it a joy to shoot.
It is one of the very few cameras that I actually use the film simulations on because they work so well and they look fantastic. So for me, I always find with Fujifilm, I enjoy the experience. I have a lot of fun shooting with this whole system, and I think that's a big part of it.
Definitely, and because of the compactness of it and the way that they've designed the X-Series lenses with the system, I always feel like it's the camera that I want to bring around with me for anything. Like, it's just so well designed to be your everyday camera.
Yeah, and with the additional resolution, it certainly gives us a lot more flexibility to sort of blow things up with and really work those files.
Now, of course, we did touch on that this camera is designed more as a photography tool. There are some video specs to it, but this is what Fujifilm is really pushing towards, is making a photo experience camera that is heightened in that way. If you want something that is more designed for video, then I suggest you look at the XH series. And I'm enjoying that X resolution, having a bit more detail, a bit more cropping room. And I think overall, if you're someone that is a previous XT user, or you're choosing between different cameras right now, this is a very solid option for the photography enthusiast. If you're someone that's a little bit more serious about it, it feels really nice, and it's just such, again, a joy to use. But of course, we want to know, what do you think? I know there were a lot of people out there that were excited about the XH2 tech, but wanted the dials, wanted more of that XT experience. Does this check all your boxes? Let us know in the comments below.
Am I making too big a deal out of the battery grip or the lack of a battery grip available? Follow us both on Instagram.
And if you're new to the channel, please subscribe, hit that notification bell, and we'll catch you again very soon. You're like, give me the giant table, and then they like go,
Not the hair,
like,
Ma.
no.
Don't touch my hair. Hey, thanks for checking out this episode. If you want to check out more of our recent content, click up here. And if you're a Canadian, you want to support local, check out thecamerastore.com down here.